Hey everybody, it's Nick Dolman again with another video about Power Pages. Now this time I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. A few months ago I presented a session at Directions at Vienna, and Directions is primarily a conference all about Business Central. Now what is Business Central? It is what you call an Enterprise Resource Planning Software, ERP, which I think is just a fancy name for an accounting system. Anyways, what we're going to do today is show you how you can take Business Central and integrate that with Power Pages to actually take some of your Business Central data and show that on a Power Pages website. Isn't that exciting? All right, let's dive into it. All right, so we know that Power Pages has a whole bunch of different features and abilities, primarily to build websites, but websites that can talk to your business data, specifically in Dataverse. Now, how do we get Power Pages to talk to Business Central? That's a great question. What we're going to use is a feature called virtual tables. Now, if you don't know what virtual tables are, they're the ability to take information from other data sources and other databases and basically make them look and feel and smell just like Dataverse. Now, of course, Power Pages talks to Dataverse, and we can set up virtual tables in Dataverse, so Power Pages can talk to virtual tables. But how are we going to do this for Business Central? Let's take a look. So at the end of the day, what are Dataverse virtual tables? They're external data sources that appear and act like regular Dataverse tables. Now, that external data source must be modeled like a Dataverse table. It needs a primary key, it needs the same data types, it also needs to define those relationships. Now, there are some limitations that are going to go above and beyond this video today, but just be aware of that. If we take a look at this diagram, we see our Business Central environment, and we have the ability to call that API, and through that API we can actually create and call those Dataverse virtual tables plugin, which of course has been created for us as part of the package that Microsoft has provided. So we'll be able to use this to talk with our different apps, Power Pages, as well as Power Apps and Power Automate if you want to go down that route as well. This is pretty exciting. This opens up a whole new world for people that are using Business Central. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about authentication. Now, Power Pages website uses Dataverse contacts. Now, we can register these as a new user and be invited. I've had other videos on this. There's a lot of content how to do that. Now, that can use external authentication providers like Azure AD B2C. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to link Business Central customer table, and we're going to link that to the Dataverse contact table. We're going to create that link. So therefore, the Business Central customers will be able to log into a website and only be able to see the data that belongs to them, like sales orders or invoices to those specific customers. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes, but basically I did want to shout that out for your Power Pages folks that are going to wonder how this authentication works, and then also for your Business Central folks, how are my customers going to be able to know and log into a Power Pages website? So we're going to get all to that very shortly. All right, I've logged into Business Central. I've logged into the Kronos USA company. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go into the settings icon. This is the little gearbox icon that's in the corner. And here I'm going to go into something called Assisted Setup. And I'm into this in Assisted Setup. What I'm going to be looking for is to set up an integration with Dataverse. And here we are. Underneath the connect with other systems, we have the setup connection to Dataverse. So we're going to click on this, and that's going to take us through the setup guide. Now, it looks like I've already done that. I'm going to run this again because I am connecting to a new environment. Let's just click on yes. And yes, I'm going to enable data synchronization. I want to enable virtual tables and events. And the next thing I'm going to do is going to try to find that Dataverse environment that I want to connect to. So I've already created a Dataverse environment. Again, it goes beyond the scope here, but you should be able to create a separate Dataverse environment in your Power Platform environment that's on the same tenant as your Business Central, so you can have something to connect to. And of course, we're going to accept terms and conditions, right?
Sign here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here.
And we're going to hit next. All right, so I'm going to choose my BC Demo 2025 environment. I'm going to click OK on this. And it's going to set up the connection. I need to sign in with the administrator. And now we have the administrator as signed in. Next thing we're going to do is it's going to need to install some components and configurations. All right, we are going to choose an ownership model. I'm going to choose team, continue with the setup. And here we're going to continue on with the Dataverse connection setup. Now what we also need to do is going to go through this wizard process, but we're going to have to install the Business Central Virtual Table app. That's an app that's going to be installed on your Dataverse environment. We have to do that through AppSource. Now thankfully there's a link here that we can just click, and this will take us into AppSource directly. We just click on Get It Now, and I'm going to choose the environment that I want to install this on. Of course, we're again going to agree to all the terms and conditions.
Sign here and here and here and here and here and here.
And we'll continue on. And this is now going to install that Business Central virtual entity into our Dataverse environment. All right, so we see after a few minutes that we have the Business Central Dataverse base integration has been installed along with the Business Central virtual entity. Excellent. All right, so I'm back here on the Dataverse connection setup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit refresh. All right, we did a refresh. We can see the Business Central Virtual Table app is installed, but what we can now do is just hit finish. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do now is just going to do a quick little search. What we're going to search for is the Microsoft Entra applications and pages and tasks. So I'm going to open this up, and we actually here we have a couple things: the anonymous external users and the Power Pages authenticated external users. We're going to want to make some configuration here to allow these users, or basically Business Central, to be able to access or the users to be able to access Business Central data. So we're going to need to set up some permissions for that to allow that flow to happen. So basically, first off, I'm going to do the anonymous external users. So let's open this up. We want to make sure it's enabled, and basically we want to make sure that we have both read and login permissions are configured here. So we can find these in the permission set lookup. You're going to want to find the login ability. So we have that here. So we have that set up, and we also have the dynamics read. I've already had these all set up already. We want the D65 read ability for those anonymous external users. So we have that. So we're good here. Excellent. Now let's move on to the authenticated users. So I'm going to go with this, the authenticated users. Here we're going to change things a little bit differently. We're going to again give it login access so it can actually log into the system and be able to log into Business Central. This is more happening on the back end, but then also we want the full Dynamics 365 business full. So again, we would go in and we would choose this Dynamics 365 business full access here. Now you can go in and you can make adjustments based on what tables and what access that you want. For now, I'm just going to give it the full access so we can get on with the demo. So this is all done. So this part is now complete, and yep, this is going to update. This may take a while, so we're going to kick that off and let that happen. So when this is done, we can close this off. So this part is done. Now we're going to flip over to our Dataverse environment into our Power Apps Maker portal, because there we have to do some extra configuration. Okay, we're in our Power Apps Maker portal, and then what we're going to do, let's take a look at the app sections. And interesting, we actually have, some Business Central configuration app. So that's a new model-driven Power App. So let's launch this. All right, we've launched the model-driven app. I'm going to go to the available tables, and I'm going to configure some tables here. So let's actually find the customer table, and we'll just quickly go in. Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to want to make it visible, and we're going to want to refresh this. I'm just going to hit save here. All right, that's done. And we're going to want to do that to a bunch of other tables. So let's select those. And then once they're selected, go and hit edit. And here basically I want to configure them to be visible, and we'll refresh them. This is the mass edit record. So we see here it's going to edit those 6 records. We'll hit save. So after that mass edit process is done, you should see some of the tables that you selected flagged to yes as visible Business Central tables. All right, let's move on to the next step. All right, so in order to log into a Power Pages website, it is done through authentication, and that authentication is linked to the contact record, which is linked to the user that's logging into the Power Pages site. Now, In order to set this up in Business Central, what we're going to have to do is link that either to a vendor table or the customer table. So what I'm going to do is going to add a lookup to the contact form or the contact record that's going to link back to that virtual table, that customer Business Central virtual table that we just set up in the previous step. So in order to do that, I'm here in the Power Apps Maker portal. I have set up a preferred solution. Again, if you're working with the Power Platform, you should be working within solutions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the contact table, and it's the existing Dataverse contact table from the Common Data Model. And of course, that's what's being used for Power Pages authentication. So we're going to add that table in here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to basically add a new lookup column. I'm going to go to the contact, and this is basic Dataverse table configuration 101. You've probably done this a bazillion times yourself. Let's just look at those columns, and I'm going to add a brand new column. And I'm just going to simply call this BC customer. And of course, we should put in a description. This is where we're going to choose it to be a lookup. And we're just going to choose this regular lookup. And now the related table, what we need to look up is to the customer or the vendor table, depending on what you're doing. All right, we have this. We don't have to look really at the advanced options. We can change some of the schema names and things like that. We are going to need those things in the future, but let's just hit save. All right, so we now have that lookup. Now, the other thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add a key field. Now, this is because we are linking to the Business Central virtual table, which is a little bit different than, even though it is Dataverse virtual tables are supposed to act and smell like actual Dataverse tables, we do need to actually go some extra steps to make sure we have that linking properly. So what we need to do is actually go into the keys area here, and I'm going to add a brand new key, and I'm just going to basically call this BC customer key. Pretty simple. And then we need to make sure that we're choosing that BC customer field as the key field. So we're good here. We're going to save that. So we save this, we're good. We're going to go back into our apps. And once again, we're going to launch that Business Central configuration app, because we're going to need to set up that particular relationship between our contact and our customer table. And we are going to have to use this tool for that. All right, so we're back into the Business Central configuration app. What I'm going to do is go into the table relations section. We don't have anything set up yet. I'm going to create a brand new table relation. I'm going to call this something like Dynamics 365 BC contact to sales order, because we want to link our contact records to our sales order. So we make sure that our contacts are only seeing the sales orders that are related to them. For the native table, which strictly just contact. And then for the native table key, this is where I'm going to put in the schema name. And here I have RXRM underscore, that's the prefix for my publisher. And I'm going to use the BC customer key, that's what I set up. And then for the virtual table, we're going to set up Dynamics 365 BC underscore sales order version 2. So we have that now set up. Now, before we hit save, this is something that you might run into. If you hit save, you're going to get an error. What we have to do is go to the mappings. And in the mappings, this is where we're going to need to set up the different column names that we're matching between different things. So for example, we have our customer, which is that lookup field that we created. And this is now going to be mapping to the customer ID field that is in that virtual table. So we need to set up that, what they call that synthetic relationship. We're just going to paste in that. So we're good here. And now I'm going to hit the save and close. All right, now we have that synthetic relation set up. So we're good here. We've created this. So this is important that we've now been able to link our contact table using the Business Central virtual customer table that's supposed to be linked to the sales order table. So this will make sure that when our users log into the Power Pages site, they can only see the sales orders that belong to them specifically. Now, there's more work that we need to do, but the next thing we actually want to do is actually make sure that we have that lookup field on our contact form so we can associate our contacts to the correct Business Central customers. So let's just take a quick look on how we can do that. So once again, I'm in the Maker portal. I'm going to go in my solutions, going to go into that BC demo solution, open up my tables, open up the contact. I'm going to look at the forms. We don't have it. I'm going to just modify one of the existing forms, which is just the contact main form. We're going to this. And again, this is model driven apps 101 configuration. But what I want to do is on the main form here under the contact information, where we have the account name, what I want to do is add that Business Central customer name. So we have that here. going to drag that underneath the or above the account name, doesn't really matter, just so we have it on the form so we can update that. We're going to need to update that. And I'm just going to hit save and publish. So that's just going to update that model-driven app form, which we're going to look at in a little bit. Okay, let's take a quick recap. We've configured, we've installed all of the requisites to get our BC Business Central configuration into our Dataverse environment. We've configured those virtual tables. We've also created that synthetic relationship between the contact and the customer, and we're going to use sales orders for the example. Now let's actually get to the meat and potatoes of this whole process we're working with, and that is the ability to extend all of that information from Business Central into our Power Pages website. Now, if you're new to Power Pages, there's a lot of great content out there. The docs are really good. I know the guy who wrote a lot of them. But basically, if you're just starting, it's pretty simple. Within the Power Apps Maker portal, we can go to Power Platform, we can dump to Power Pages. Cool thing is you can set up developer websites for your own playing around and testing. Of course, Copilot is scattered everywhere, and currently we don't have any sites. So what you can do is you can start building your website with Copilot, or you can start with a template or start from blank. I like to usually start from blank for a lot of the things, although these templates are pretty handy. So actually, today, what I'll do is I'll choose a template, just starter template number one. I'm just going to choose that template. And then here we can go through and create our Power Pages site. Just following the defaults is fine, or you can be specific on what you want to put in for your site name and your web address. And of course, if this is going to be a production site down the line, you can create your own custom URL and map that, again, above and beyond the scope of this particular video. After a few minutes, you should have a website, a Power Pages site up available. Of course, you might have a lot of Copilot pop-ups, so I have to shut those down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the data workspace. And in the data workspace, I want to go and basically take a look at tables. I found the item table already. So what I want to do is I can just go in and edit this view directly here. This is the same as what we would do if we're creating a model-driven app. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the unit price as well as what our inventory level is, so we can actually see that on a publicly facing website. And that may or may not be public or private information. For our purposes, this will be information that anybody accessing the website should be able to see. I'm just going to save and publish that view. Of course, I could probably, in most cases, I would just create a brand new view holding the information in the columns that I want to see. So once our data view here, what I'm going to do is go to Pages. I'm going to create a brand new web page. Of course, Copilot wants to create it for me. I will actually go through and just use a standard layout. I'll just call this inventory list. I'm going to start from a blank page. I want to add that to the main navigation. That's fine. And here I'm just going to add a list. First off, I'm going to leave this preview component off. I'm going to shut off AI Insights for now. Create a brand new list, and I'm going to choose the item table. And I'm going to choose the data view. We modified all items to show those other columns, and I'm going to give it a list going inventory. And we see it's here. Now, in order for users to see this, this is very important. You cannot expose Dataverse data directly onto a website automatically. You have to set up table permissions. I'm going to repeat that. You have to set up table permissions. All right, so in order to do this, I'm going to add a brand new table permission. Inventory list. I'm going to use global access. I want everyone to access it. Going to only give them read access, and I'm going to choose the role for both anonymous and authenticated users. Now, if you recall earlier, we did set up in Business Central the Power Pages anonymous user ability to be able to log into Business Central and also to read data from Business Central. So that's really critically important. That was set up in order for this anonymous user to work. So I'm going to hit the save here. I'm going to, of course, it's going to give me a warning about exposing data. That's okay. We want to expose this information publicly. That's all right. This site, let's actually take a preview and see what this looks like. And we're into our Power Pages site. We see a list of all of our products and a unit price in the inventory. So exactly how the view, this now we've not logged in. This is for anonymous users. So this is already showing that we've taken Business Central data. We've been able to add that through virtual tables into Dataverse, and then through Dataverse be able to expose this to a publicly facing website. Let's take this a little bit further and give the ability for only our own authenticated users, our own customers, to only view their own sales order data. All right, so here I'm back into the Design Studio. I'm going to go back to my data workspace, and let's now search for sales orders. So here's the sales order, and I'm going to go into views, and I'm going to create a new view, and I'm going to call this web my sales orders. And again, it's just sort of describing, again, I should put in a description. I'm just going to hit create. And here we have the sales order number. What I want to do is add existing columns. I'm going to add in terms of the order, let's say the order date. What are some of the status is probably a good idea. Currently in draft, and then basically the ship to contact, maybe. Pretty straightforward information that we'd have on our sales orders that our customers might want to view, specifically our own customers. Now we see here that we have a whole bunch of different customers. We want to make sure that we're only going to be showing the orders that our own customers see, and we're going to get to that. So this is good. I'm going to save and publish this particular view. All right, now that I've actually created that view, I now want to go back to my pages. And here I'm going to create a brand new page. I'm going to call this, again, I'm just going to use a standard layout. I'm going to call this my sales orders. I'm going to add that to the main navigation. I'm going to add, and then here I'm just going to add a list. And I'm going to create a brand new list. I'm going to choose the sales orders table. I'm going to pick the views. I'm going to choose the web my sales order. That's the view we worked on, and I'm going to name the list just web sales order. That's fine. I'm going to shut off the AI insights just so we're not distracted by it. And here we have the order, the order date, the status, and the ship to contact. And now again, we need to set their permission to be seen when used by all site visitors. Let's hit a brand new permission, and here instead of global access, I want to choose something different. I'm going to choose the contact access, and in terms of the relationship name, I'm going to choose that synthetic relationship. Remember, we set that up earlier, so now this is all beginning to come together now, combining that Business Central data into Dataverse to the virtual tables, creating that synthetic relationship to our actual contact Dataverse table, and we get that here. Again, I'm just going to leave the permission to read. We could go in and allow our users to edit, and then I just want to add that we only want authenticated users to be added to that because we want our users to be able to log in. So I'm going to hit save. So our permission is now set up. The other thing I'm going to do here as well is I'm also going to change the permission on those page settings. I'm going to make sure that I only want authenticated users to view this particular page. So what's going to happen is if I now have saved this and now I go into preview, it's immediately going to want me to log in order to see that page. So if you're just visiting the site, you don't even know this exists until you actually sign in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an account that I'm going to be able to sign in that's linked to one of my customers. So this will be a little bit of a segue. Back in the design studio, I am going to launch the Power Pages management app. And a couple things I do want to do here. I actually want to create a link between my customer and my particular contact. So I see here, I currently don't have any contacts in the system. So I'm going to create a new one. Let's just call him Bob. And I'm going to link him to an actual Business Central customer. So we see here a Datum Corporation. I'm just going to choose that. Again, we could fill out some other information. I'm just going to choose, create an email address, bob@test.com. And I'm just going to save this contact. And again, we need contact records in order to log into Power Pages. Basically, I'm going to create an invitation here, allowing Bob to log in. I'm just going to save that invitation. Again, this is Power Pages 101 stuff. I'm going to take that invitation code. And now let's go to the Power Pages site and get Bob to log in. So I'm here, I'm going to redeem invitation. Paste in that invitation code. And hit register. We see already bob@test.com. I'm just going to use the same one. And then of course, put in a password that no one will guess. Now, quick little side note, you should be using an external authentication provider like Azure AD B2C or Okta or Entra external ID, which is in preview at this point. But at this point, we're just going to use the local authentication for purposes of this demo. All right, we see that Bob Roberts is logged in. Now, the other thing that we've noticed here, we can of course fill in this, and then we can just hit update. That way, Bob can update his own information in the Power Pages site. And notice here now that we have our sales orders, but they're all to Robert Towns. Let's actually take a step back and make sure we have the company name put here to make sure they're Datum customers. So yeah, I went back into the design studio. I'm just going to add another column here. Okay, so see here, I've added the customer name into the view. I'm just going to save and publish that. Again, we only want Datum Corporation customers to show up here. We don't want the School of Fine Art or the Alpine Ski House to accidentally show up. All right, so I'm actually now back here on my sales orders, and we see that we have only the A datum customer. We do have the ship to contact, which I assume belongs to Bob Roberts' company. So basically, we've done a really cool things. We've configured Business Central to have virtual tables into Dataverse. On the Dataverse side, we've installed some components that allow us to configure those virtual tables specifically for Business Central. And then once we have those configured, we've also within Business Central allowed anonymous and authenticated Power Pages users to be able to access that Business Central data. We've configured those synthetic relationships to only allow our contacts that belong to those customers to only view the data that they're allowed to see. Then we've taken those virtual tables, we've created list components in Power Pages, which is a pretty standard feature with Power Pages in talking to Dataverse data. And then we were able to expose this onto a website. We did see our inventory list here, which basically just shows everything to the public. And then we have my sales orders that are linked to this Bob Roberts, who is linked to the A Datum Corporation. And we only see A Datum Corporation data. A lot of information here, a lot of setup here. The instructions on MS Learn are pretty good. Now, this still is a preview feature. There are some limitations. I am not sure when this will be fully GA. I am trying to find that out. I will try to update this in a blog post or something, but I hope you did find this video interesting. I know there's a lot of information here. I am hoping to present this topic a couple times this year at various events, and hopefully this will evolve and allow you to extend your Business Central using the Power Platform and Power Pages. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.